Can you hear me? Perfect. I'm trying to see if I don't know if Austin's coming or not. Yeah. Give me 1 second. What'd you say? Yeah, it gets busy. Hold on, let me give him a call real quick. 1 second. All right, he's still tied up, so he might hop in a little bit later, but he's been moving today, so he's been having. Yeah. All right, so was thinking. I don't know how much time you have or what your plan is, but I'm thinking I'm gonna shoot for 25 to 35. It's really not that many pages, to be honest with you, but no. 20 chapter 25 to chapter 35, maybe 25 to 30, maybe, but possibly 35. I guess we'll see how we feel. But that's what I read up to. I read 20 to 24 last week. I'm reading. I am on Christian Standard. No, it's just it just says Christian Standard. Yeah, it's from Tony Evans Study Bible. That should be Abraham's other wife. Yeah, yeah. Oh, if you want to start, you can go ahead and start. I'm ready. All right, chapter 26. There was another famine in the land in addition to the one that had occurred in Abraham's time. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, at Gerar. The Lord appeared to him and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land that I tell you about. Stay in this land as an alien, and I will be with you and bless you. For I will give you these lands, for I will give all these lands to you, and your offspring. And I will confirm the oath that I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky. I will give your offspring all these lands, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring. Because Abraham listened to me and kept my mandate, my commands, my statutes, and my instructions, so Isaac settled in Gerar." When the men of the place asked about his wife, he said, "She is my sister," for he was afraid to say "my wife," thinking, "The men of the place will kill me on account of Rebekah, for she is a beautiful woman." When Isaac had been there for some time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from the window and was surprised to see Isaac caressing his wife, Rebekah. Abimelech sent for Isaac and said, "So she is really your wife? How could you say she is your sister?" Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might die on account of her." Then Abimelech said, "What have you done to us? One of the people could easily have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us." So Abimelech warned all the people, "Whoever harms this man or his wife will certainly be put to death." Isaac sowed seed in that land, and in that year he reaped 100 times what was sown. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich, and kept getting richer, until he was very wealthy. He had flocks of sheep, herds of cattle, and many slaves, and the Philistines were envious of him. Philistines stopped up all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of his father Abraham, filling them with dirt. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Leave us, for you are much too powerful for us." So Isaac left there, camped in the Gerar valley, and lived there. Isaac reopened the wells that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, and that the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham had died. He gave them the same names as his father had given them. Then Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a well of spring water there. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen and said, "The water is ours." So he named the well Esek, because they argued with him. Then they dug another well and quarreled over that one also. So he named it Sitnah. He moved from there and dug another, and they did not quarrel over it. He named it Rehoboth. I have no idea. I'm just throwing a word out there. I'm not going to lie. And said, "For now the Lord has made space for us, and we will be fruitful in the land." From there he went up to the Beer-sheba, and the Lord appeared to him that night and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your offspring because of my servant Abraham." So he built an altar there, and called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. Isaac's servants also dug a well there. Now Abimelech came to him from Gerar with Ahuzeth, his advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his army. Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me? You hated me and sent me away from you." They replied, We have clearly seen how the Lord has been with you. We think there should be an oath between two parties, between us and you. Let us make a covenant with you. You will not harm us, just as we have not harmed you, but have done only what was good to you, sending you away in peace. You are now blessed by the Lord. So he prepared a banquet for them, and they ate and drank. They got up early in the morning and swore an oath to each other. Isaac sent them on their way, and they left him in peace. On that same day, Isaac's servants came to tell him about the well they had dug, saying to him, We have found water. He called it Sheba, after the name of the city. Of the city is still Beersheba today. When Esau was 40 years old, he took he took as his wives Judith, daughter of Beri, and the Hethite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon, uh, the Hethite. They made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. I'd be doing that too. I got to use my finger just to keep track of it. My ADHD will mess with me. All right. Yeah, it was. That one was a little all over the place, huh? It was interesting. I invited. I don't know, Hunter. If I mean, I know you can hear me, but I don't know if you want to read. If you don't want to, you can just stay in the audience. But if you want to take a turn reading, then you're welcome to do that. Either way, if you want to accept the invite to speak, you can do that as well. Just because after we get done reading, we usually discuss if you want to take part in that. But if you'd like to just listen, you're more than welcome to. So, all right. So chapter 28. Let me get my everything situated again. Okay. So Isaac summoned Jacob, blessed him, and commanded him, "Do not marry a Canaanite girl. Go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father. Marry one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, so that you become an assembly of peoples. May God give you and your offspring the blessing of Abraham, so that you may possess the land where you live as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham." So Isaac sent Jacob to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. Esau noticed that Isaac blessed Jacob and sent him to Padan Aram to get a wife there. When he blessed him, Isaac commanded Jacob, "Do not marry a Canaanite girl." And Jacob listened to his father and mother and went to Padan Aram. Esau realized that his father Isaac disapproved of the Canaanite women. So Esau went to Ishmael and married. In addition to his other wives, Mahalath, daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, she was the sister of Nebaioth. Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. He reached a certain place and spent the night there, because the sun had set. He took one of the stones from the place, put it there at its head, and lay down in that place. And he dreamed a stairway was set on the ground, with its top reaching the sky, and God's angels were going up and down it. The Lord was standing there beside him, saying, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your offspring the land on which you are lying. Your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out toward the west, the east, the north, and the south. All the peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. Look, I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." He was afraid and said, "What an awesome place this is! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that was near his head and set it up as a marker. He poured oil on top of it and named the place Bethel, though previously the city was named Luz. Then Jacob made a vow: "If God will be with me and watch over me during this journey I'm making, if he provides me with food to eat and clothing to wear, and if I return safely to my father's family, then the Lord will be my God. This stone that I have set up as a marker will be God's house, and I will give to you a tenth of all that you give me." Yeah. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she envied her sister. Give me sons, or I will die, she said to Jacob. Jacob became angry with Rachel and said, Am I in the place of God? He has withheld offspring from you. Then she said, Here is my maid Bala. Go sleep with her, and she'll bear children for me, so that through her I too can build a family. So Rachel gave her slave Bala to Jacob as a wife, and he slept with her. Bala conceived, and before Jacob a son, and bore Jacob a son. My goodness. Rachel said, God has vindicated me. Yes, he has heard me and given me a son. So she named him Dan. Rachel's slave Bala conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Rachel said, In my wrestlings with God I have wrestled with my sister and won. And she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she took her slave Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Leah's slave Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, What good fortune! And she named him Gad. When Leah's slave Zilpah bore Jacob a second son, Leah said, I am happy that the women call me happy. I am happy that the women call me happy. So she named him Asher. Reuben went out during the wheat harvest and found some mandrakes in the field. When he brought them to his mother Leah, uh, Rachel asked, Please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah replied to her, Isn't it enough that you have taken my husband? Now you also want to take my son's mandrakes. Well then, Rachel said, he can sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes. When Jacob came in from the field that evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, You must come with me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. So Jacob slept with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, God has rewarded me for giving my slave to my husband, and she named him Issachar. Then Leah conceived again and bore Jacob's sixth son. God has given me a good gift, Leah said. This time my husband will honor me because I have borne 6 sons for him. And she named him Zebulun. It's an interesting name. Later, Leah bore a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son. And she said, God has taken away my disgrace. She named him Joseph and said, May the Lord add another son to me. After Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, Send me on my way so that I can return to my homeland. Give me my wives and my children that I have worked for, and let me go. You know how hard I have worked for you. But Laban said to him, If I have found favor with you, stay. I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. Then Laban said, Name your wages, and I will pay them. So Jacob said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your herds have fared with me. For you had very little before I came, but now your wealth has increased. The Lord has blessed you because of me. And now, when I will also do something for my own family. Laban asked, What should I give you? And Jacob said, You do not need to give me anything. If you do this one thing for me, I will continue to shepherd and keep your flock. Let me go through all your sheep today and remove every sheep that is speckled or spotted, every dark-colored sheep among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the female goats. Such will be my wages. In the future, when you come to check on my wages, my honesty will testify for me. If I have any female goats that are not speckled or spotted, or any lambs that are not black, they will be considered stolen. Good, said Laban. Let it be as you have said. That day Laban removed and streaked and spotted male goats and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one that had any white on it, and every dark-colored one among the lambs. And he placed his sons in charge of them. He put a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob. Jacob, meanwhile, was shepherding the rest of Laban's flock. Jacob then took branches of fresh poplar, almond, and plainwood, and peeled the bark, exposing white stripes on the branches. He set the peeled branches in the troughs in front of the sheep, in the water channels where the sheep came to drink, and the sheep bred when they came to drink. The flocks bred in front of the branches and bore streaked, speckled, and spotted young. Jacob separated the lambs and made the flocks face the streaked sheep, and the completely dark sheep in Laban's flocks. Then he set his own stock apart, and didn't put them with Laban's sheep. Whenever the stronger of the flock were breeding, Jacob placed the branches in the troughs, in full view of the flocks, and they would breed in front of the branches. As for the weaklings of the flocks, he did not put out the branches. So it turned out that the weak sheep belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones to Jacob. And the man became very rich. He had many flocks, female and male slaves, and camels and donkeys. Jacob went on his way, and God's angels met him. When he saw them, Jacob said, "This is God's camp." So he called that place Mahanaim. Mahanaim? I have zero clue. He called that place a weird word that I can't pronounce. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the territory of Edom. He commanded them, You are to say to my lord Esau, this is what your servant Jacob says. I have been staying with Laban and have been delayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female slaves. I have sent this message to inform my lord in order to seek your favor. When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, We went to your brother Esau. He is coming to meet you, and he has 400 men with him. Jacob divided the people with him into 2 camps, along with the flocks, herds, and camels. He thought, if Esau comes to one camp and attacks it, the remaining one can escape. Then Jacob said to God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, the Lord who said to me, Go back to your land and to your family, and I will cause you to prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant indeed. I crossed over the Jordan with my staff, and now I have become 2 camps. Please rescue me from my brother Esau, for I am afraid of him. Otherwise he may come and attack me. The mothers and their children, you have said, I will cause you to prosper, and I will make your offspring like the sand of the sea, too numerous to be counted. He spent the night there and took part of what he had brought, with him as a gift for his brother Esau. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He entrusted them to his slaves as separated herds, and said to them, Go on ahead of me, and leave some distance between the herds. And he told the first one, When my brother Esau meets you and asks, Who do you belong to? Where are you going? And whose animals are these ahead of you? Then tell him, They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau. And look, he is behind us. He also told the second one, the third, and everyone who was walking behind the animals, say the same thing to Esau when you find him. You are also to say, Look, your servant Jacob is right behind us. For he thought, I want to appease Esau with a gift that is going ahead of me. After that, I can face him, and perhaps he will forgive me. So the gift was sent on ahead of him. While he remained in the camp that night, during the night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 slave women, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford at Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream along with all of his possessions. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not defeat him, he struck Jacob's hip socket as they wrestled, and he dislocated his hip. Then he said to Jacob, Let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. What is your name? The man asked. Jacob, he replied. Your name will no longer be Jacob, he said. I will be Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, Please tell me your name. But he answered, Why do you ask my name? And he blessed him there. Jacob then named the place Peniel. For I have seen God face to face, he said, yet my life has been spared. The sun shone on him, and as he passed by Penuel, limping because of his hip. This is why still today the Israelites don't eat the thigh muscle that is at the hip socket, because he struck Jacob's hip socket at the thigh muscle. 34. Leah's daughter, Dinah, whom Leah bore to Jacob, went out to see some of the young women of the area. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, who was the region's chieftain, saw her, he took her and raped her. He became infatuated with Jacob's daughter Dinah. He loved the young girl and spoke tenderly to her. Get me this girl as a wife, he told his father. Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled his daughter Dinah, but since his sons were with his livestock in the field, he remained silent until they returned. Meanwhile, Shechem's father Hamor, came to speak with Jacob. Jacob's sons returned from the field when they had heard about the incident. They were deeply grieved and very angry, for Shechem had committed an outrage against Israel by raping Jacob's daughter, and such a thing should not be done. Hamor said to Jacob's sons, My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as a wife. Intermarry with us, give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. Live with us. The land is before you. Settle here, move about, and acquire property in it. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, Grant me this favor, and I'll give you whatever you say. Demand of me a high compensation and gift. I'll give you whatever you ask me. Just give the girl to be my wife. But Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully, because he had defiled their sister Dinah. We cannot do this thing, they said to him. Giving our sister to an uncircumcised man is a disgrace to us. We will agree with you only on this condition. If all your males are circumcised as we are, then we will give you our daughters. Take your daughters for ourselves, live with you, and become one people. But if you will not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and go. Their words seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man did not delay doing this, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was the most important in all his father's family. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city. These men are peaceful toward us, they said. Let them live in our land and move about in it, for indeed the region is large enough for them. Let's take their daughters as our wives and give our daughters to them. But the men will agree to live with us and be one people only on this condition. If all our men are circumcised as they are, won't their livestock possessions and all their animals become ours? Only let's agree with them and they will live with us. All the men who had come to the city gates listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and all those men were circumcised. On the third day, when they were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords, went into the unsuspecting city, and killed every male. They killed Hamor, his son Shechem, with their swords, took Dinah from Shechem's house, and went away. Jacob's sons came to the slaughter, and plundered the city because their sister had been defiled. They took their flocks, herds, donkeys, and whatever was in the city and in the field. They captured all their possessions, dependents, and wives, and plundered everything in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simon and Levi, You have brought trouble on me, making me odious in the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. We are few in number. If they unite against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. But they answered, Should he treat our sister like a prostitute? Easy enough. There's a lot that happened in 10 chapters, I'm not gonna lie. It's like, I don't even know where to start, to be honest. So I don't even know where to start, to be honest. Like, as far as thoughts go, like. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, yeah, lied to him about where he was going. Yeah, it's just, I mean, he still didn't trust him for some reason, I guess. I mean, I guess, yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, to some extent. But I mean, like, I guess in the same vein, the way that I would look at it is like, I think it said that he left out with like several hundred men riding with him. So if he wanted to kill, like if he wanted to kill him, he would have just killed him and his entire family right there. You know what I mean? Like logically speaking. So he probably didn't want to kill him. Laban. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. He meets Rachel. Jacob deceive. He must have been wasted. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what he said, right? Like he was. I mean, he was willing to undergo indentured servitude for 7 years, and it even says like, yeah, it was 7 years, but it didn't feel like 7 years because he, like, it was so worth it for him because he was so infatuated with her. So like, yeah, he must have been like, yeah, beyond drunk. So yeah, that's a good point. Well, there's definitely some people that get blackout drunk for sure. Yeah, that's definitely still a thing. Um, I so do you remember? Oh man, who was it? I can't think of his name right now. Was it Abraham that buried one of his wives? Or is it? I'm trying to remember the name. It was in chapter. 25, verse 7. Didn't Abraham bury one of his wives in the cave of Machpelah? Am I crazy? I feel like I remembered reading that. Yeah, I think that, or somebody before. Maybe it wasn't Abraham. Maybe it was somebody before then. Um, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham and the three visitors. Hagar and Ishmael, Abraham, covenant. No, I think it's after that. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, I guess it's not extremely significant. I just thought it was interesting. Chapter 23. Okay. Does it say? Because yeah, like he goes through like this whole, yeah, the cave of Machpelah. Verse yeah, chapter 7 again. If you're willing for me to bury my dead, give to me the cave of Machpelah. And then some while later, Abraham's Abraham's wife dies, right? Isn't that what I was reading? His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him. Right. But I'm talking about later on, like chapter 25. Somebody else is buried there. So Abraham gets buried there with his wife. Yeah. So that's interesting, yeah. In the cave of Machpelah. So that's good. That makes me happy. That's a nice, I guess, a nice ending. So I thought I read somebody else was buried there. Um, I thought it was interesting that God. I was wondering if God would be upset about the slaughter, but I guess yeah, that's what I think that was the verbiage they used. The sons killing the entire town. Like obviously, the rapist deserved death, and so did the father. But I was wondering if God was going to be, huh? And the father definitely deserved death. Yeah. So, I mean, the father knew that he raped her, and still, you know. Well, no, yeah, I'm talking about so they were like, oh yeah, you know what? It's fine. Let's become like one group of people. Like we'll marry your daughters, you marry our daughters. Everything's chill. Just get circumcised. Um, yeah. So then they're like, they go back. They tell all the homies in the city. They're like, hey yo, check this out. Like we can like these guys are rich. These guys, they've got cool daughters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and then they go. And then tw- verses 24. Oh, but it's not. That's picking it up. Hold on one second. Ambulance or something. Um. So then, like, as you go down further, right? Like, all these men, like, they do it. They go through with it. and then they go in there and they just like kill all of the men in the entire city. They slaughtered and plundered the city because their sister had been defiled. They took their flocks, herds, donkeys, and whatever was in the city. Well, they were all the same clan, I think. Right? That's the way that was portrayed. So I guess it's like I mean, I'm sure none of them were great people, but I was just curious to see if God was going to be upset with that. But I mean, he clearly wasn't, right? Because I mean, in 35, he had them move. True. Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. True. Yeah. That's a good point as well. Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. The only thing that makes me think is it must have been justified, because if it wasn't just, God would have taken issue. So for whatever reason, it must have been justified. Um, like maybe it was something that they did often. Maybe like the way that it was so nonchalant between the father and son makes me think that it was. Well, remember they're in the land of Canaan, so yeah, Laban, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's like everybody in Canaan, or save for God's people that go into there. But mm-hmm. Yeah, I was curious about that. I was wondering if there was like an emotional attachment, or if it was like a spite steal. I don't know, but mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, God definitely, yeah, yeah. How many chapters are there in Genesis? I think there's like 60, 50. Okay, we're not that far away then. Yeah, like 15 chapters left before we finish Genesis. Yeah. Yep. Maybe the second time I've read Exodus when we could do that. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, right, like when, I mean, mankind is just kind of getting started at that point. So you kind of Like it's like we'll start slinging seed, dog, because we need people. You know. So, right, right, right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, right. Like everything is like everything in the Bible is deliberate. If we've learned anything, right? Like I was talking about the line of Seth stuff earlier with my brother. It's like that whole thing is like there's no logical explanation that I can think of other than divine intervention in the names of the people to formulate a perfect sentence, and that sentence is only possibly to be formulated several thousand years later when a language that doesn't exist yet comes into existence. yeah, yeah, you know. Yeah, of course, right, right. Yeah, so. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. I and even like the line uh of Cain kind of does something similar. Um, it's not. I think it. I did a genealogy breakdown of that not too long ago, just for myself because I was curious, and it was. It seems to be talking about Noah, from what I can gather. Um, but I'm not 100% sure. I can grab the. Oh, and I'll grab my journal. Because I wrote it all down. Ooh, please. So it's not as. I definitely don't think it's as clear as Seth, but so I mean, like Cain's line right goes, Adam, Cain, Enoch, Irad, Mehujael, Methuselah. I'm sorry, actually it's Methushael, Lamech, Jabal, Jubal, and then Tubal Cain. Um, so it kind of translates to man brought forth, teaching fugitive. The one smitten of God is a man of God. So the is a was added. It's just man of God. Mighty, a river flows forth. All offspring of the men brought forth. So it's kind of like for me, it sounds like it's talking about right. So like a man is brought forth, teaching fugitives. The one smitten of God is a man of God. Mighty, a river flows forth. So it seems like it's talking about, like Noah being smitten with God. Um, so a man brought forth, teaching fugitive, the one smitten of God is a man of God. Mighty, a river flows forth, offspring, uh, it's so small, I had to write it so small. All offspring of the men brought forth. Of like Noah, of almost like hinting towards the flood, kind of like the river bursting forth. Moses too, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I could see for teaching fugitive, the one smitten of God is a man of God. I could see Moses too. Yeah, I could certainly see Moses. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that one, or I could see um, Noah just simply for the fact, right? So Noah is brought forth, right, teaching fugitives. So at that time, everybody was evil and corrupt, um, right? So he was trying to. I think it took. I think it was like 175 years or something like that to build the ark. Some insane time frame. Um, yeah, it was a long time, right? So this whole time he's trying to get people to yeah, he's trying to get people to repent, trying to get people to believe in God, trying to get people to change their ways. Um, but yeah, the smitten part, I'm not sure. That's the only part that I wrestled with, but not that I know of, right? Like I said, he was the only good one. Not that I can remember. I want to see. To be deeply affected by strong feelings of attraction. So smitten can also mean like deeply affected by strong feelings of attraction, affection, or infatuation. For example, he was so smitten by her that he promised to move to Argentina to be near her, as an example, right? So that could, the one smitten of God, right? Noah was definitely fond of God, to say the least. And he was a man of God. Yeah, yeah. Right, and yeah, and he's clearly a man of God. Mighty, a river flows forth, right? The water bursts from the seams. So I don't know. I could see it being Moses too, though. I think it's definitely hinting towards somebody. Um, so it would be related to. Let's see what 1, 2, 3, 4. So Irad. Five. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the fifth one. So it's Mehujaeo. Yeah, Mehujael, or however you pronounce it. Yeah. So I wrote down. So I was reading an article about it, right? So um, I wrote it down because I thought it was really interesting. So no, you're chilling, you're chilling. Um, so the line ends with right with Jubal, and Tubal Cain. Um, so it says all three names Jabal, Jubal, and Tubal Cain have the same root meaning of to bring forth, and are related uh, to the word for the flood as used in the flood narrative in which these three died in Genesis 6:17. The word Cain is a synonym and thus a wordplay. Jabal and Jubal are also related to Jubilee, which suggests the end of an age, as does the narrative's use of multiples of seven. Um, so Genesis 4:24. Uh, a jubilee occurred at the end of 7 by 7 years. So Genesis 4:24 is if Cain is to be avenged 7 times over, then Lamech, it will be 77 times. So like there's that word play with 70, with the sevens, which is, I mean, that's so prevalent throughout the entire Bible. But um, yeah, so I mean, I guess the Jubilee thing is interesting. I thought because obviously, right, Jubilees happen at the end of an age, um, and they are the last in the line of Cain. It's like it's a celebration if you look it up. From what I remember, don't quote me, but it's supposed to be a celebration at the end of an age. It's like a festival if I remember correctly. But, um, yeah, it's like the end of every 7 years if I remember correctly, or 7 by 7 years. Yeah, yeah, that part I don't get. Maybe it's like a some type of ceremony type thing. Yeah. So yeah, so I mean, and they all, I mean, obviously they sound similar, right? Jubal, Jubilee. So I mean, maybe, right? So, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting for sure, and it was definitely the end of an age. I mean, clearly. So for the flood. So yeah, I mean, the flood takes place all with, I think it's under a year. Um, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you can say that again. That's for sure. Yeah, me too. Me too. I got work in the morning, so yeah. But it is going to be on YouTube. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, yeah. But all right, Bob. I guess it was good talking to you, and I guess we'll do it again next week. Yeah, of course, right? Yeah, at least on paper. At least on paper. All right, Bubbles. Good night. All right, everybody. Um, thank you for your time. If you're watching it back, let me know what you think. What you know, if you have any different thoughts than I do, or than we do, or different perspectives, I would always greatly appreciate those. If you'd like to join the server, you're definitely welcome to do that. Right? Um, we would love to have you. Uh, it's the House of Adonai. Should have a link in the description of the like the channel bio. Um, Pardon me, excuse me, at the yawn. Anyways, yeah, should have a link down there. We do these Bible readings every week. Sometimes there's more people, sometimes there's less people. It just depends what everybody's got going on, right? Yeah, I'd love to have you. If not, drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts. And I appreciate your time. Make sure you have a good rest of your night, and bye bye. Remember, all of us are sinners, yet we are loved by Jesus. I pray that you listen to this message and remember the sacrifice he made so that your suffering would not be eternal, but that your love would be. Amen.